At LSI, we don't just follow trends, we help shape the future. Welcome to Behind the Win, the podcast where we break down the biggest moves in tech, innovation, leadership, and government contracting. Here at LSI, we're bringing you exclusive conversations with the minds behind groundbreaking advancements, disruptive strategies, and industry-defining wins. From retail to tech, defense to government solutions. This is where you get the insights to stay ahead. Let's go behind the win.
Welcome to another episode of Behind the Win, where we dive into the journeys of industry leaders shaping the future of business. Today, we're joined by Sam Beasley, Chief Operating Officer at LSI. With a rich background in banking and a fresh perspective on operational leadership, Sam shares insights on transitioning industries, fostering innovation, and steering organizations towards excellence. Sam, some icebreaker questions for you first.
Lock and load.
What's one unexpected lesson you've carried from banking into your current role at LSI?
One unexpected. Well, I'll say this much. I'm not sure it's totally unexpected, but I'm surprised at how much it's relevant. You know, coming from an industry that's highly regulated, you know, policies and procedures that we're responsible for adhering to. Coming here thinking, you know what, those shackles will be off, right? Regulatory hindrances gone. But honestly, what you find is there's still something in that mindset, right? The risk mitigation that's still very applicable here. And trying to apply that in the measured doses that allow us to be disciplined but still agile. I think that's probably the first things that I noticed when I moved over.
Absolutely. And I think government can be just as highly regulated in certain aspects too, right? And those are the things you're inferring we have to implement and such.
That's right.
As well.
That's right.
If you could have dinner with any historical figure in business, who would it be and why?
Whew, it's a tough one. You know, I think the one that comes to mind initially is a local legend, right? Larry Miller. He spoke actually at my bachelor's commencement, talked about, you know, building a legacy, not just a business, something that lasts beyond your, you know, the meaningless, if you will, times that we're here. And I think just getting a perspective from a guy who really truly did build it from the ground up, I think that would be an incredible experience.
That's a great one, especially with all his, you know, rich history here in Utah, for sure. What's a hobby or interest that keeps you grounded outside of work? I think I know this one.
I think you'd be surprised, actually.
Okay.
So, yeah, I think as a father, you know, your children are going to be a key interest in your lives. You know, as we look at ourselves as parents, I think we all strive to be at least as good as our parents were for us. And then occasionally look for opportunities to maybe improve upon some things that you didn't, you know, have an opportunity to engage with your folks on. You know, my parents worked hard to get us through private school. My mom worked swing shift. So being involved, you know, being able to attend sporting events, et cetera, that just wasn't a thing, you know. And I've been lucky both at my last position and this one that I've got great leaders that are supportive and allowing me to, you know, get out, you know, early on, you know, few occasions to actually be engaged and you know, watch my kids succeed. And I think that helps you understand kind of what's really important. Certainly, what we do here is important, but it grounds you. It helps you get that perspective.
That's interesting because I mean, I think about it. My parents were super involved, but my mom stayed at home. But my dad was always gone, right, on the road and working. Yeah. He was a salesman. And so I don't know that he saw anything besides really my last softball game or dance, you know, high school dance recital till last one my senior year.
That's
so
right.
I love that. Tell everyone a little bit though. You run a club outside of work. What is it?
That's
what
right.
Does it do?
Well, it's called Craft Pub Runners. It's a social engagement opportunity for folks in Salt Lake City. Obviously, there's a bit of drinking related to it, but it's not a party scene. It's for, generally speaking, middle-aged folks that, you know, maybe they're empty nesters and they're just trying to get back out and connect with people. We get a lot of folks from out of town, a lot of transplants, especially from the Midwest for some reason. I'm not really sure what
And it's
that is.
around running.
That's right. Well, and so it's a combination of, we think of it kind of as a local tour guide sort of situation. We visit all the breweries, distilleries on sort of a round robin scenario. So we get, again, sort of people an opportunity to understand the greater Salt Lake City environment. I think there's, for legitimate reasons, but there's a sense that drinking really isn't a thing in Utah. But then, and then there's some running. We do run and walk. We have folks that are called flatliners that just come for the social aspect of it. Our tagline is, "I need CPR."
Yeah.
So yeah, it's but it's a reason to kind of stay active and get out and meet people. And I'm a pretty social guy, so it sort of feeds that.
Where can they find you if they want to know more about that?
Man, they can find us everywhere. We're on all the things. TikTok, we have our own website.
What's the website?
Surprisingly enough, craftpubrunners.com.
Okay.
Just that easy.
Perfect.
But we're on, Instagram, Facebook. We do Meetup. Apparently Instagram is the thing. Most of our folks find us on Instagram. And I think we got one byline in Reddit somewhere on the internet. I think it may be a myth, an urban legend, but I think we have one byline in Reddit somewhere.
But they can, and so you're getting organic traffic too, not just, friends of friends. But when you say they find you, maybe people that didn't know anything about it, but saw something.
Yeah. And to your point, the meetup thing has been really super helpful, but oftentimes it's just folks that land in Salt Lake and are like, there was a guy joined us last week. He'd been in Salt Lake for 3 whole days and found us. And he's like, well, where, do you know anybody here? He's like, nope, I just did the search, the running thing. And, but we do have a strong element of what I call the canary in the coal mine sort of thing happening, where it's like, I think, somebody pushes their friend out in front of the firing line to see if we're crazy people. And then if we're fine, then they come back the next week with like 3 or 4 of their friends. I don't know what the hesitancy is there, but we'll take it the way we can get it.
You've recently moved from a long tenure in banking to your current role here at LSI. What motivated this transition?
I think the tenure itself was part of it. I mean, not only had I been at the bank for many, many years, I'd been in the single line of business. And at some point, you need new opportunities, new challenges to grow. And I worked in the government contracting space previously. So in many ways, this wasn't as risky a jump. I felt like I was comfortable going back there. And many people know you and I worked together for several years. And so I think I got an honest read from you about what the opportunity was. And so again, from a risk perspective, it didn't feel like there was much to risk and lots to gain in terms of just, again, growth and opportunity.
Yeah. And I think that's good that, I had a mentor early on that said, if it's not, if it isn't challenging you, it's not changing you.
Right.
And so I was there 17 years, you were there just as many. And so it almost becomes second nature and people need you and you know what you're doing and you can do it in your sleep. And
That's
so
right.
I wanted something, like you different that would wake us up.
Absolutely.
How has your experience in the financial sector influenced your approach today in operations, in a different industry, considering this government contracting? Yeah,
I think as I think about that question, here's what's interesting. It sort of harkens back to my first response. I mean, industries can be as different as can be, but there's always applicable lessons, right? One of the case studies from business school is FedEx, right? And many people know they took their cues from NASCAR, right? That's why they have a centralized location for processing all packages in and out. I think it's in Georgia. But my point being is there's frameworks within all businesses that are completely transferable. And the processes, adherence to quality, a customer mindset, right? I mean, all those things are critical, regardless of the industry you're in. And I think really the advantage I have, or the nice thing about coming into this job, is just that there's new challenges to apply those learnings to.
Yeah. And I think that things at the bank, there's nothing you didn't learn that you can't apply somewhat or somehow
Exactly.
in our environment today. What challenges and opportunities have you encountered during this industry/company shift?
Yeah. Well, I mean, here's the reality of it. And this goes back to even my previous contractor days. I mean, we live in a very dynamic space, right? Industry is, moving with the political landscape, the shifting sands, every 4 years. And it doesn't matter who's in office, right? This one maybe feels a little bit more dramatic, but the reality is that, LSI in their way in which we approach various lines of business, right? We're not sort of pigeonholed into delivering just one thing, allows us to shift with those opportunities as they arise. And I think the other thing that, we need to take more advantage of is our people on the ground, right? Our people, the boots on the ground, they're going to hear about these changes before we do.
Sure.
We've got folks involved at the legislature. They can help us understand kind of where those changes are coming and what they might be. And I think that, again, we're sort of uniquely positioned to adapt to those changes as they come.
Yeah, I think in most of the podcasts that I've done recently, a lot of the theme is being able to pivot,
That's right.
That no matter what industry they're in, you have to, based on your landscape, be that political, religion, whatever it is, be able to pivot to, adjust for revenue, et cetera.
Yeah.
In your view, what are the key components of operational excellence?
There is so much that goes on in operations, right? And I think about our various, strategic areas of focus. Every one of them have some little, tweak, differences between them. But ultimately, it comes down to, consistency, producing a high quality product, staying customer focused, and, looking for opportunities to challenge ourselves and say, what is it we're delivering today and how can we do it better? Without that mindset, it's going to be difficult to continuously deliver for your customers.
Agreed. How do you prioritize and implement process improvements within a dynamic organization similar to LSI?
Yeah, I think you alluded to it earlier, right? We've got several credentials that we're going after right now, so those sort of prioritize our process improvements for us. But those are going to put us in position to win more work. But beyond that, you're just looking for wins that are low cost, right? The low hanging fruit, I think, as you discussed some time ago. I mean, there's always some area for improvement, obvious things to pick up, and the key is just asking yourself again, like, what can we do different today than we did before?
Yep. And I love that to be ever evolving. I think anytime things get busy and it's chaos, that's where I love operations, because I think what you fall back to is your governance, your standardization, your process and procedures, and you and your team do that well and have those so that when we are in these moments of chaos, we can thrive in those.
Right.
Can you share an example of a successful operation change you've led recently here at LSI?
Yeah. This is more, it's operational, but it's also strategic focus. We've won several contracts in the E2E space, education to employment, across the nation. And I think, rightfully so, we've been ambitious and tried to tackle all those items. Again, we're a lean shop. We took a step back and realized that these are heavy lifts to get started. And we put a couple of those down, and really focused in on the areas where we saw, key partnerships with the states that we were working with. And that's allowed us to get those off the ground. And we'll come back to the ones that didn't launch right away. But you've got to sometimes just look at where you might be thrashing and focus where you're winning.
Well, I think that's been a theme with us recently, right? Is that sometimes it's okay to say no and not do that business with that client, right?
Right.
And I think some of the things what did it allow your team, right? Us saying no, now they could focus on what?
Right. So, we had some success in New Jersey. That one actually, unfortunately, we didn't carry that one through. But it really tightened up our processes, how we interact with New Jersey. And now we're starting to see success with Washington State, utilizing some of those learnings. So I think we're still going to go back to those places. We won all of Texas. That is very fertile ground. But we've just it's going to take a little bit more work to cultivate the relationship with the folks down there. And I think once the wheels are turning in Washington and hopefully back in New Jersey, we'll get back to Texas and we'll start to see wins there as well.
That's great. Innovation is crucial in today's business landscape. How do you foster a culture of innovation within your team?
Yeah. I mean, the key is just twofold, really. I mean, firstly, you've got to empower your leaders, and your frontline employees to make the changes, right? We're going to have to follow processes and procedures, but we've got to be able to spark that level of curiosity. We've got to be able to tell them, ask yourself, what is it we should be doing better for our customers today? What's our customers' need going to be next, right? And then allowing them to come back to us and suggest and implement those changes for both our customers and for our own success.
Okay. What role does technology play in enhancing operational efficiency and specifically at LSI?
Yeah. Well, I mean, AI is the technology du jour, right?
I know. I always say this. I love it because I use it all the time, but I hate it because it's the biggest cliche word. I remember in our day and age when agile was the big, hot topic word.
But it cannot be understated in this particular case, right? We're seeing AI being implemented in our industry all over the place, and our ability to continue to compete is going to require us to figure out how to use those tools. And I think, AI has sort of double-edged sword, right? I mean, ultimately, our employees are looking at it, maybe rightfully so, and saying, this may take some of my work for me. And that's okay. What it should do is, free them up to do more, value-added activities, evaluating a proposal for, key objectives.
Right.
Yeah, it seems like, that's obviously critical, but if we can have the machine do that for us while we think, creatively about the strategic objectives of our customers, then that's great.
I like that because in talking with everyone about AI, right? One is what you said is that it'll free you up to work on value-added items. And then two is that people don't need to be scared of AI because it enhances what they do. It's not necessarily going to replace what they do in all instances. How do you feel about that?
Yeah. I think, and I'll maybe just shade around what you just said. I mean, it is going to replace folks' work, right? We don't have blacksmiths, right? Technology will replace folks. I think you have to be honest with your employees, but you also have to be supportive of them, saying these are the skill sets that I'm going to need you to bring with you into the next evolution of our organization. Train them up, give them opportunities, and I think they'll come with their background. Their experiences of the pre-AI, and put us in great position to take advantage of that tool set.
Right. And this isn't the first time. I mean, it's the first time AI has been here, but we've seen these things, especially coming from technology world, even from where we were recently, right? Is that, and it's the upskilling of people. We saw a lot of people where we came from. We had an entire core transformation of going from mainframe to a more
distributed
modern, distributed real-time modernized system. And it's reskilling those people, right? Yeah. So it's not always, we're just done with them. It's that you put the time and invest into them.
Well, I think your employees want to see you be honest with them, right?
Absolutely. Transparency.
I mean, you don't replace the core and tell people nobody's losing their job. I mean, first of all, it's obviously not the case, and then you just come off looking like you're not authentically leading those folks.
For sure. What role does technology play in I already said that one. Sorry, cut that one out. How do you balance risk and innovation when implementing new operational strategies?
LSI is in kind of a lucky situation, if I can say it that way. I mean, I have these things, right? Like, we're not here saving babies and we're not splitting atoms, right? Yep. The fall from our height is not likely to be catastrophic. At the bank, perhaps somebody does something wrong and $1 million wire goes out, right? And that's going to seriously damage somebody's life.
Sure.
So I feel like we can operate a little bit more like risky because we just don't have, we can take chances that maybe we wouldn't otherwise do just because, well, ultimately we either win big or we fail securely, right? I mean, we can turn that particular opportunity around pretty quickly.
Yep. And I think what's interesting is we did come from highly regulated, risk oriented industry, and to come here, we get to be on the other side where we're the ones that are pushing the risk and the mitigation and implementing that and getting structure around that. Right. Where before we maybe saw them as adversaries, and now we get to be those types of adversaries. How do you feel with that? Yeah,
well, and maybe I mentioned this previously, but again, the right level of risk mitigation, right? Our risk tolerance is higher here, and the regulatory, bounds aren't quite as tight. But we know where we can focus in on and really trim that risk down where it's needed.
What trends do you foresee shaping? Let me start that one over again. What trends do you foresee shaping the future of operations in our industry?
You just cannot understate the impact of the political landscape, right? We've got 4 years of this particular strategy, and then obviously we're going to have another shift. That is the core driver of our business. Now, we do, luckily get involved with smaller communities that are a little bit more stable. Maybe the political landscape is not so dynamic.
Municipalities versus federal.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. But these organizations, especially with the changes in the federal funding structures, it's just going to get that more competitive at the local municipal levels, and we're going to have to continue to help our customers there.
How is LSI preparing, and specifically with your divisions, right, to adapt to these emerging trends of AI and et cetera?
Yeah. The real challenge is getting our folks to embrace those technologies, right? Our writers right now, I think they see that as their sort of secret sauce, running their work product through AI and asking it if there should be some improvements. I think a lot of them are sort of hesitant to do that. But the upshot is we've got leadership, key folks that have been around for several years, right? They understand their lines of business. They understand their customers. And I think they'll be able to drive that technological adoption in a very productive kind of way.
Do you know what blockchain is?
Do I know what blockchain? Yes, I do know what blockchain is.
I know. I was like, can someone please explain it to me? I listened to a LinkedIn thing where it was funny, laughing about it, everyone saying like, what is blockchain?
Yeah. Blockchain is, I don't know. I'm just glad that I don't have to speak on a regular basis. That's all I'm going to say. What an NFT is?
Yeah, I do now. What advice would you give to professionals aiming to transition between industries successfully?
You have to look for analogous, whatever it is, processes or procedures or just challenges. If you can frame up a new job in a way that's either, oh, this is completely different than anything I've ever dealt with, or this is exactly like we dealt with, it gives you a point of reference. And it's not as complicated. It's not as daunting as it may seem from the outside. Just address it. As Ted Lasso says, be curious, right?
Yeah.
Get in there, ask the right questions.
I love that. And I think I tease even with my husband because I'm like, if you're in operations has some, different aspects to it. If you're going from Google to banking to whatever that is. But I feel like you said, if you have that foundation, it's, you can really run operations for any of those.
Yeah. And rely on your people. I mean, that's key. Again, back to employee engagement or empowerment. We've got really good folks here, and we just have to trust them to bring us the right information so we can make the right strategic decisions.
That's good. Sam, thank you for sharing your journey and insights with us. Your experience underscores the value of adaptable leadership and the impact of cross-industry expertise. For our listeners, Sam's story is a testament to the power of embracing change and driving innovation. Until next time.